She stood at the window for 3 full minutes, staring at her phone like it was about to give her a new future. I watched from the hallway. Not hiding, not sneaking. Just watching. She didn't know I saw her smile. Not the polite smile she gave me when I asked how her day was. Not the exhausted smile she gave our neighbors when they waved across the driveway. No, this was a slow, secret smile. The kind someone makes when they're chosen. When I walked in, she tucked her phone under the throw blanket like it was nothing. And she said it again. Not now. Just like the night before. And the night before that. She didn't ask what I wanted. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just reached for her glass of wine and turned back to the window, like I was fog on the glass she could ignore until it cleared. So I stood there in silence, heart trying to crawl up my throat. There was so much I wanted to say. I wanted to yell. Ask who he was. Ask why her phone now lived face down. Why her showers were longer. Why her passwords changed. Why I hadn't seen her real smile since July. But I didn't. I watched her sip that wine like nothing in the world could touch her. And in that moment, something inside me broke so quietly it didn't even echo. That night, I laid next to her. I didn't touch her. Didn't speak. Just listened to the way she sighed in her sleep. Like she was dreaming of freedom. And the next morning, before she even opened her eyes, I leaned down, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and whispered, "Farewell." Then I left the keys on the counter. But I didn't go far. I had to be sure. I had to see what she'd do once she thought I was gone. And that's when the truth began to fall apart piece by piece. Because the man she smiled at wasn't a stranger. And her plan was already in motion. I didn't go far. Just down the block, parked behind the old elementary school with the busted swing set. I sat in my car with the engine off, jacket zipped up to my chin, and my fingers wrapped around a thermos I didn't drink from. She always said I was dramatic, overreactive, emotional, that I read too much into things. But I wasn't imagining this. The way she barely blinked when I walked out. The way her shoulders relaxed as the door closed. That wasn't grief. That wasn't shock. That was relief. So I waited. Watched the house from a distance. She had no idea I could still see her, her silhouette pacing near the kitchen, her hand reaching for her wine again. She always reached for wine when she was about to lie. I waited 43 minutes. That's how long it took. Then the porch light flicked on, and a car pulled into the driveway. It wasn't a neighbor. Wasn't her sister. It was a black Subaru with tinted windows, and I knew I'd seen that car before. I just didn't know where. I watched her open the front door like she'd been waiting all day. She didn't check the street. Didn't hesitate. She smiled as he stepped inside. I didn't even get a clear look at his face. Just his posture. Too familiar with the layout of my house. Too casual with his shoes. Too at home in a place that wasn't his. My heart didn't break. Not this time. It numbed. I drove off slowly. Not because I was afraid of getting caught. Because I was afraid I wouldn't care if I did. An hour later, I came back. Let myself in through the side door with the backup key she forgot I still had. The lights were off. The house smelled like lavender and lies. I didn't go upstairs. Didn't want to hear it. Instead, I walked into the kitchen. Her wine glass was still on the counter. Half full. Lipstick smudge on the rim. And next to it, 2 plates in the sink. 2 forks. She'd cooked for him. In my kitchen. Probably with the skillet my mom gave us for our 5th anniversary. I opened the fridge. Half the bottle of wine was gone. The dessert she always pretended not to like, chocolate souffle, was gone too. She only ever ate that when she was trying to impress someone. It was her "don't fall in love with me" dessert. She made it for me once, before our 3rd date ended in her whispering, "Don't let this be a one-time thing," against my neck. I remember that night like a prayer. Now it felt like a punchline. I didn't touch anything. Didn't leave a note. Didn't knock on the bedroom door, though I could hear movement, laughter, music through the wall like a bad dream. I just took one thing. The photo from the living room shelf. Us, laughing on the beach. A moment I thought was real. And as I stood there, holding it in my shaking hand, I realized something worse than betrayal. She wasn't cheating anymore. She'd moved on. While I was still standing in the ruins, brushing off ash and pretending it was dust. The next morning didn't start with coffee or regret. It started with a name I hadn't seen in over a year lighting up my phone. Mallory Fallon. Her cousin. The one who stopped visiting. The one who moved to Santa Fe and suddenly vanished from Fallon's life like she'd never existed. I remember once asking about her, and Fallon rolled her eyes and said, "She's too chaotic. We grew apart." That was that. So when her name buzzed across my cracked screen at 6:14 a.m., I sat straight up on my friend's pull-out couch and just stared. I didn't answer right away. My hands were shaking too much. But the second time she called, barely 30 seconds later, I picked up. Doyle. Her voice came through like static. You're not still in the house, right? I blinked. What? You left, yeah? You actually left? Yeah. There was a pause, like she needed to decide if I deserved the truth. Then she said, okay, then you need to know something. And I need to say it now, before I lose my nerve. I pulled the phone tighter to my ear, my mind running laps. She's not just seeing someone, Mallory said. This didn't start recently. It's been over a year. Maybe longer. I didn't say anything. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. She told everyone you were controlling, distant, that she was lonely, and you made her feel like a ghost in her own house. I swallowed hard. I made her feel like a ghost? I know, she said quietly. I didn't buy it. Not at first. But Fallon has this way of making lies sound like old memories. You start to doubt your own timeline. She's skilled. I could hear Mallory pacing on the other end. Doors creaking. Maybe she was hiding too. She's seeing someone named Micah Doyle. That's his name. They met at a project conference in Portland. I only met him once. But the way she looked at him, her voice broke off. She changed after that trip. Cut people off. Me included. I told her what she was doing wasn't fair, that if you found out it'd wreck you. And you know what she said? I didn't answer. I didn't want to know. Mallory whispered it anyway. He won't leave. Doyle's the kind of man who sticks around even when he's drowning. I closed my eyes. The room spun. She counted on you staying. Even after the truth. Even after it crushed you. She thought you'd grieve quietly. Fade out like background noise while she reinvented herself. I stood up, pacing now, biting the skin around my thumbnail. Do you know where she is now? I asked, my voice raw. She's back home, Mallory said. Micah left last night. He always leaves before daylight. It's part of their deal. What deal? She promised him a clean break before Christmas. No more hiding. No more whine and whisper nights while you're at work. I laughed bitterly. Whine and whisper. Doyle, her voice softened. You don't have to vanish. You don't have to play the sad, quiet role she wrote for you. I looked out the window, saw the early frost collecting on the windshield. I didn't want to play anything anymore. I wanted to burn the whole script. Do you have a photo of him? I asked. Mallory hesitated, then said, yes. Send it. You're not going to do anything reckless, right? I didn't answer, because reckless was already behind me. What I wanted now was precision. When the photo came through, I didn't open it right away. It just sat there in my inbox like a sealed confession. My thumb hovered over it for a long time, the way you might hesitate before flipping over a card you're scared to see. But of course I looked. Of course I did. And when I did, I almost dropped the phone. Not because he was particularly handsome, or older, or younger, or any of the things I thought I'd feel threatened by. He wasn't the cliché villain in a suit or a gym mirror selfie kind of guy. He looked normal. Hoodie, scruffy beard, a chipped tooth, and a laugh. Someone you'd trust to lend your kid jumper cables at a gas station. But I recognized the background in the photo. A small art gallery. Red brick walls. Yellow lighting. A place Fallon and I used to visit on Friday nights when we still had a thing. And suddenly, it hit me. I'd met him 3 months ago. At the gallery. It was some local art night event. Fallon had insisted on going even though I had a migraine that could split concrete. I remember her being weirdly eager to get there, like she needed to be seen. I spent most of the night pretending to enjoy bad abstract paintings and sipping warm white wine. And at some point, she disappeared for a while. When she came back, she introduced me to a guy she said was a friend from the foundation that sponsored the event. Micah, that was him. I shook his hand. I thanked him for supporting local artists. We even laughed about one of the installations that looked like 2 garbage bins glued together. He was that guy. Friendly, disarming, quietly smug. And all the while, they were already sleeping together. She stood between us, smiling like a diplomat brokering peace, and I didn't see it. I didn't feel it. The gut punch, the sixth sense, the primal alarm bells, they all failed me. They tricked me. Or maybe I tricked myself. Maybe I didn't want to know. I called Mallory back. She answered on the first ring. I met him, I said flatly. At the gallery. She introduced him to me. There was a pause on her end, like even she hadn't expected that level of cruelty. I'm sorry, she whispered. She's deeper in this than I thought. She brought him into our space, I said, pacing. She made me shake his hand, look him in the eye, while they. I know. She chose to do that. That wasn't a mistake. That wasn't an accident. That was a message. Doyle. She wanted to see if I'd notice. Or worse, she wanted me to notice. But when I didn't, she probably laughed about it with him later. Over souffle. Or in my bed. Don't spiral. I'm not spiraling. I snapped, though my throat was tightening. I'm cataloging. Cataloging. Every detail. Every crack. Every second she made me feel like a burden while he was getting her best. I'm going to remember all of it. Why? Mallory asked gently. So I know what to erase when I finally walk away. There was a silence between us then. Not empty. Just heavy. Like the calm before a decision that changes everything. Then she said something that stuck with me long after we hung up. She's not going to expect you to do anything. That's how sure she is you'll stay quiet. I hung up. And that night, I went back to the house. Not to fight. Not to cry. Not to confront. To listen. Because sometimes, the most dangerous man isn't the one who screams. It's the one who's finally stopped asking why. I let myself in just after 10 p.m. I knew she was home. Her car was in the driveway, still warm when I brushed my hand across the hood. But I didn't go through the front. I used the laundry room entrance. It's tucked around the side, creaks just enough to be ignored, and Fallon never remembers to lock it because she always thinks I'll do it for her. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't call out her name. I just moved through the shadows of my own home like a stranger breaking in, except every object I passed had once meant something. The coat rack still held the scarf I bought her in Vermont. The hallway smelled faintly of the vanilla candles she used to light only when we were happy. And the framed quote above the stairwell, "Love is showing up," might as well have been a joke now. I heard her before I saw her. She was upstairs, pacing, on the phone, her voice low but not low enough. I crept up the stairs, one step at a time, avoiding the two that creaked. It wasn't hard. I knew this house better than I knew myself. I stopped just outside the bedroom. She was inside, door cracked open an inch, barefoot, and wearing the faded college sweatshirt she only wore on nights she wanted comfort. That sweatshirt used to mean safety. Now it was just camouflage. I know, she whispered, laughing softly. He's still texting me. It's kind of sad at this point. Silence. Then, no, I didn't reply. Not since I told him not now. He doesn't get it. He thinks I'm conflicted. I'm not. Silence again. And then I heard the worst part. No, Micah, I don't feel guilty. You don't have to keep asking. My breath caught in my throat. She wasn't just hiding me. She was mocking me, minimizing me into some pathetic footnote. A lesson. A soft man too slow to notice his own erasure. You want me to just tell him? She asked. Like, lay it all out. She laughed again, this time sharper. He'd break. He's Doyle, you know? And that was it. That tone like I was a worn-out pair of shoes she'd been meaning to throw out, but hadn't gotten around to. I backed away before I could hear more. I didn't want to know how much of my life she'd turned into a joke. I slipped back down the stairs, past the family portraits, past the stack of mail she never opened, past the fridge with the grocery list still stuck to it, written by me, with ingredients for meals she hadn't eaten at home in weeks. And when I stepped out into the cold night, I didn't feel pain. I felt purpose. Because now, it wasn't just about betrayal. It was about clarity. She had rewritten the narrative, made me the joke, so I decided I'd write one of my own. But mine would be the kind that ends things. I waited 3 more days. Not out of weakness, out of calculation. I needed her to believe she still had control, that I had drifted off somewhere to lick my wounds like a heartbroken puppy. She probably thought I was holed up in a cheap hotel room, staring at my wedding ring and reading articles about how to win her back. Let her think that. I stayed with Mallory, which was ironic, considering Fallon hadn't said her name aloud in over a year. Mallory had this old garden apartment with creaky floors and a front door that didn't quite close unless you kicked it, but it was quiet, and more importantly, it was outside of Fallon's world. Mallory offered to confront her. I said no. I didn't want confrontation. I wanted exposure. So I waited until Thursday. That was the night Fallon had her little book club gathering. She used to meet at the local library with a group of women she'd known since grad school. It slowly morphed into more wine than books, and now it happened at our house. Or I guess her house now, twice a month. I knew she'd have guests. I also knew she'd be at her most performative. That's what I needed. I texted her that morning. Casual. Hey, can I swing by after 7 to grab a few boxes from the guest room? No mention of the phone call I overheard. No accusations. Just enough to make me seem pitiful and passive. She replied 4 hours later with, sure. Just make it quick. I have people over. Not a single how are you? No curiosity. No sign of guilt. Just clinical permission, like I was a stranger who needed to pick up a forgotten umbrella. Perfect. I showed up at 7:08. Knocked. She answered in a soft sweater, hair curled, glass of wine in hand. All fake warmth and hostess energy. Doyle, she said, sounding mildly surprised. You made it. You said I could. I replied, keeping my eyes low. Yeah. Come in. There were 3 other women already seated in the living room. One of them looked up and gave me the kind of smile people reserve for stray dogs. Fallon didn't introduce me. Didn't acknowledge me again as I walked past them. That's when I made the call. From the hallway, I sent one simple text. Now, back door's open. Mallory walked in 2 minutes later. She didn't say a word. She just entered through the kitchen, rounded the corner into the living room, and froze in plain view. Fallon saw her first. And her face, God, her face was everything. The mask didn't just slip. It shattered. Her lips parted like she was about to scold a child. Her body twisted like she could physically block the sight. Mallory, she breathed. What are you? You invited me, Mallory said coolly, stepping forward. Didn't you say tonight was just your close circle of friends? I meant to text you. No, you didn't, Mallory cut her off. The women on the couch shifted uncomfortably. One of them asked, is this a bad time? Oh, we're way past bad, I said softly. And that's when I walked in, holding a small Bluetooth speaker. It was already connected to my phone. I tapped play, and her voice filled the room. That recording, quiet, grainy, from outside our bedroom door. He's still texting me. It's kind of sad. He thinks I'm conflicted. I'm not. No, Micah, I don't feel guilty. The women stared. One covered her mouth. Fallon didn't move. She didn't even try to stop the audio. She just stood there, wine glass shaking slightly in her hand, as her private cruelty became communal discomfort. I let it run for 30 more seconds before stopping it. No one said a word, until Mallory looked her straight in the eye and whispered, so that's who you are now. Fallon tried to speak. Nothing came out. I walked past her, past the stunned guests, and straight to the front door. I paused with my hand on the handle and said quietly, I used to be the saddest part of this story, but not anymore. Then I left, and this time, I didn't look back. The next morning, she called me 6 times. I didn't answer once. The 7th time, she left a voicemail. Her voice was soft, careful, almost rehearsed. Doyle, I think we should talk. Last night got out of hand. I never wanted to hurt you like that. Please don't do anything drastic. Let's just talk, okay? Talk. That's what she wanted now? After weeks of not now, after turning me into a punchline in front of a man who slept in my bed, now she wanted to talk. I turned my phone off. But she wasn't done. By noon, I got a message from her friend Meredith. Just a vague text. Hey, can we talk? Fallon's upset. She's saying things that don't sound like her. Then one from her sister. She says she messed up. Badly. You okay? And then one from Fallon herself, through email this time. Subject, please. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew what she was doing. Damage control. That confrontation had cracked her mask, and now the ripple was hitting her world. Her image, her curated circle of women who believed she was grounded, mature, spiritual. All of that was bleeding. And so she did what manipulators do best. She pivoted. She started telling people I twisted her words, that I'd set her up in a moment of emotional vulnerability, that I'd blindsided her with an old conversation taken out of context. It wasn't just self-preservation. It was a rewrite. She wanted to reframe the story where she was misunderstood and I was unstable. The sad ex who couldn't let go. But what she didn't know was that I had already packed. Not just my clothes. My life. I closed our joint account. Canceled the lease on the storage unit she used for her seasonal wardrobe. I called my job and requested remote relocation, granted in 30 minutes. I left the keys to our house in a padded envelope on Mallory's kitchen table. I didn't rage. I didn't explain. I just walked out of her narrative. And for the first time in years, I felt light. Fallon kept trying. For 3 weeks straight, I watched the calls come in. Sometimes late at night, sometimes mid-afternoon, like she was hoping I'd forget everything if she just caught me in the right mood. She left messages I never listened to, sent emails I never opened. Her tone kept shifting, from cold to apologetic, from defensive to desperate. But I didn't answer. Not once. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. I moved 3 states away. Got a small apartment near the coast. Nothing fancy. Just a place where the air smelled like salt instead of old memories. My new job kept me busy, and the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. One morning, I sat at a cafe near the pier, sipping coffee and watching the water, when I finally opened that last email she'd sent. Subject line: if you ever read this. She wrote 4 paragraphs. Told me she missed what we had. That she never meant for it to go that far. That she didn't recognize herself anymore. She said Micah was out of the picture, and that she wasn't reaching out to get me back, just to say she finally understood what she'd done. At the bottom, she wrote, "If you need closure, I'm here. If you don't, I understand." I didn't reply, but I did write something. A draft. Never sent. It just said, "Thank you. But I already found my closure the day you stopped expecting me to." Then I deleted it. A week later, Mallory messaged me. No drama. Just a photo. It was the ocean, from a different coastline. Her message read, "Hope the waves are better on your side." I smiled. Maybe they were. Or maybe I was just learning how to breathe again. That was the real ending. Not the confrontation, not the betrayal, not the voicemail or the wine glass or the old photograph. The ending was peace. The kind you don't announce. The kind you just live.